Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the presentation of English Module 1, which is known with a code of ACP-ENG11. This is August examination and a subject content presentation. I am your tutor, Jesus Petrina Uwanga, and the date is 1st July 2017. You can contact me on my email address, which is nuwanga@yahoo.com, or either call me at my cell number, which is 08125623393. We have a limitation here of time that you can only do that. You can only contact me either at 2 or from 2 to 6. In the morning, I will be having some other commitment. I couldn't pick up your call during the morning time, unless you text me that I can come back to you at my own time. Okay, there are books, very crucial books in our module that we cannot do without them. We need Latrin and Pincus, which is written in 2010. It's an English handbook. Make sure that you have one for yourself when you are preparing for the examination or when maybe completing your assignments. Make sure that you have this book. You can get it from the IOL office, or maybe you can buy it from bookshops. There is also an English study guide for Module 1. This one is part of your package, your hour when you register at IOL. This one comes as a package of your registration. It's a very thick book, and it has all the information about the module. There is also Thompson, a book written by Thompson 2001. It's a teaching primary English. This one is more on teaching methodology, and it's very crucial that you also make use of this one on your preparation for the examination. Comes to the content of our module. The module has a lot of information that you need to read, and this information or the content is preparing you as to become an effective teacher. On my presentation for today, I only summarize the guide in short, but this doesn't mean these are the only things that you need to read. You can finish up reading your study guide, and on top of that, then you have to master these summarized points from your guide. Number 1, language has two forms. There are two forms of language, and they are formal language and informal language. And each of these, the formal and informal, has its own type. First, I want us to look at emotive language, which is a type of informal language. What is emotive language? Emotive language can be either a subjective or objective factor or opinion, denotation or connotation, or bias or prejudice. Those are the branches or the parts of emotive language. And emotive language itself is an informal language, and it has own type under it. And we must understand this, and we must be able to explain what are these type of emotive language, like the subjective one. When somebody is talking about the subjective language, what is exactly the person want to say? You must have a full understanding on this type of informal language. I will now try to explain each and every of these type, and you must make sure that you understand, you listen, and you understand this. Subjective Subjective is a personal and it's biased. It is a one-sided point of view. That is that it's almost, you can say it's a personal point of view. And I gave an example here. For example, this sentence which says, I think she's clever than all the classmates. So this one is just an individual point of view, that she thinks a certain learner in a class is clever than everybody. But this one is not tested. You cannot prove it. It was just an individual idea. And this type of idea is what we call that they are subjective subjective type of informal language, which is under emotive language. Okay, the objective one. The objective information has the ability to be counted or described, and it does not vary. Can you see the difference between the two now? The objective and subjective. The denotation. Denotation is strictly dictionary meaning of the word. The meaning of the word that is exactly as it is in the dictionary. That one is, we can say it's a denotation language. We proceed connotation. Connotation is the emotive, let me repeat this one. Connotation is the emotional and figurative association surrounding the word. An example, Tina's participation in the competition was a walk on top of water. Can you see the connotation there? This one is the emotion that the speaker put on the idea that he is bringing up. If you look at the example that we have here, Tina participation. So Tina participated in a certain competition, and now the speaker is saying her participation was just a walk on top of water. That is the connotation that the person has put now in the sentence, in the language, that Tina's participation was worthless. She did not get anything. She did not achieve anything in her participation in the competition. Okay, the example of, if we can change the same sentence from connotation to denotation. In denotation, it will sound like this. Tina's participation in the competition did not bring anything. So connotation has more emotion attached to the sentence. But denotation, it's straight. It's straightforward. One can understand just immediately. It's very clear. But in the connotation, one needs time to think about what exactly the person wants to say. Let's come to bias. Bias is referred to a personal preconceived belief, not based on evidence or fact. Example, men are good leaders. Who told you? One can ask. This one was just biased idea. A person just have the preconceived belief on a certain point. But that one was not tested. It was not proved by anyone. It was just an individual's idea. Okay, just make sure that you read these things and understand the difference between the terms. Don't mix up the term like bias and connotation. They almost sound the same, but if you read very well, these are completely different terms. The guide has all this one, has these things in details. Contact your study guide and make sure that you read it and understand it in detail. It will really help you in understanding your module. Then we come to social. The other part that it's also very crucial in our study guide or in our module in general is the factors that contribute to language development of the children. As children are developing up, as they are growing up, there are some factors in life, or there are some factors that contribute to the language development of a child. to make a child either to become a good speaker in a certain language or become a good writer in a certain language. There are some factors that are behind this. And what are these factors? We have number one, it's a social factor. Number two, the cognitive factor. And the last one is now the linguistic factor. And how are these factors work? Social factor. Social factor is the social environment where the child lives. This can be a home, school, church, and etc. Social interaction increase the vocabulary of children and enhance their language development. Social factor, when we are talking about social factor, we mean just the social environment where the child is growing. I remember there was a story that goes that there was a young lady who grew up in the environment where there was just animals. And that a child couldn't speak because she was not exposed. Her social environment did not give her a chance to be exposed to language. So she only grown up with animals, and animals cannot speak the language that people speak. They have their own language. And that child can understand very well the language of the animals, but cannot understand the language of the language that people speak. So meaning the way our children or the children develop language it's influenced by the social factor where the child grown up. If the child grown up in an environment where she's not exposed to different words, maybe she's in the house with just adults and they do not give attention to the child, they do not communicate like often with the child, that child will not have enough word, will not have enough vocabulary because she is not exposed to the language. Do you understand that? Okay, let's go to the next factor. The next factor is cognitive and the linguistic. Okay, this one I did not explain them more, but in our guide they are very, very clear. There is a lot of information about them. Read through and understand them also, but make sure the first point that you have to master is this one, social factor. Read more and understand what other points that I did not even mentioned here, and they are under social factor. You must understand this one in detail. Okay. In language, there are many ways of learning or teaching now learners or children language. And one component is also storytelling. How this one work, how this one help now our learners to learn the language. Stories are good tools to use in teaching and reading. There are many points. One can ask learners to read a story and rearrange the jumbled phrase or sentences. Can also scan for specific information. We have storybooks. There are storybooks when you are teaching. You need teaching language. You need to expose learners to reading or to stories, to tell learners stories. And how can this one now, the story reading or storytelling, can now help assist learners to learn reading? There are some now, these are the activities. When you have this type of activities or type of questions, think inside of your classroom, how do you do it when you are teaching your learners? When you are using stories in your class, how do you do it? The way you do it is the way that help learners to learn. If you give learners a certain text or a certain novel, ask them to read, and after reading you ask them questions. Okay, we read about this, and who did this? So if learners now can be able to answer this question based on the story that they have read, so means they learn how to read. And you know already that learners or children they like stories more than other parts of language. They like reading stories more than other skills of language. And this type of activities that we are doing with them when they are reading these stories, it's what's assisting them to read. I only gave you the sample of 2 sentences here, but I know there are a lot. There are a lot in the guide. There are a lot in your mind. Come up with them, express them in detail. Then, of course, then you pick up the content of the subject. Again, there are different ways that we can use to make our learners love reading. In some other parts, you find that they are saying, how can you develop a culture of reading in your learners? This is just to say how you can make your learners love to read, either the reading book, the story books, or anything that they can read. You know, learners, there are some learners who knows how to read, but they just don't like to read. You give them a book, they'll put it aside, and then they start cutting their papers. They are just not interested in reading. But how can we develop now? How can you stimulate them to love reading? I gave you a few points. I only give you a hint of every topic. And you can now consult your guide and find out what are the people in your guide says, the writers, the authors in your guide say. And now, again, take it in your classroom. How do you do it? And this you make a combination of these two, then you will be able to attack any type of question that you can meet about this. Okay, different ways that we can use to make our learners love reading. We have number 1, ask learners to bring their favorite books to school. Learners at home, they have those books that either maybe they picked up from friends, they pick them up from family members, libraries, community libraries, and so forth. And the reason if a child pick a book, so means a learner like the story in that book. And in most cases, what is happening in our classes is that we only use the books that are prescribed by the government. No matter children or learners like the stories in those books, so it's not our issue. So we only have to use those books for learners to read. They keep on repeating them and they become boring to them. So learners ending up now not interested in reading anymore in your class and so forth. And the cause is just that they are now bored with the stories in those books because they have been repeating them now and then. But the best way now to stimulate the love of reading in our learners, ask them to bring their favorite book. They bring their books to school, they read their books, they read from their books, you set up some questions from their books, and you ask them. In that way, you assess them, reading comprehension, and so on, and again, they learn how to read from those books. Have a reading corner in your class, a space just provided specifically for some reading materials, old newspapers, old magazines, and so forth. They are there. For example, we have fast learners in our classes. The fast learners, once they finish a certain activity, just not to keep them in the class doing nothing, send them to the reading corner, and they start reading those magazines and all other things, type of materials that are in the reading corner. So now the child is benefiting in that way. She has completed her task on time, and again, on top of that, she's now given some minutes to read and learn some new words and increase their vocabularies. Read aloud to your learners. You pick a book and you read a story to them, they listen and they enjoy it. That one can also stimulate the learner's love of reading, because if you read a story to them, from there you find them now trying to read the same story that you are reading, or trying to get some other books from the libraries, because they know books are having nice stories and read for themselves. But if you just keep learners in the class and do some other activities, and then we are not promoting the reading culture, then learners will not love to read at all. We have also the other part in our language learning, which can be used to teach different skills. Like this one, we were talking about reading culture. Reading is a skill, language skill, and now we have now highlighted how to stimulate it. Let's look at speaking now. How can we stimulate speaking in our learners? There are two types, type of activities here that I have just selected out from many more. And this one can perfectly stimulate the love speaking in our learners. We have role plays, and again we have simulation. Let's listen to how these things work. Simulation is when learners are acting as if they are someone or something else, and they can bring some items to class to make the environment more realistic. Simulation, one can say it's a type of a drama, where you send learners to come and act out something, and they are in the same situation. For example, maybe they are acting as let me say old person or old lady telling a story. They must now put on those white hairs, and they must bring sticks and wear like an old person. Those type of things where they put their action in reality, those are the simulation. And the role play, what is a role play? A role play is when a person or a learner acts as if they are someone else. You must make sure that you understand the difference between the two, the simulation and role play. Don't mix them up. Role play, a person is just acting like somebody else. And in simulation, you act like somebody else, but on top of that, you also put the environment into realistic situation. Like I said, if you are acting like an old people, we should see the picture of an old people. We should see an old people in that act. But in a role play, you can role play like an old people, but you can be just in your normal way, not putting on the old person's clothes and so forth. Okay, we proceed. This one is about the materials now. Teaching materials. I met a question about how where you were asked to describe how you can use different materials. The list of materials were now provided for you, and what you're supposed to do is just now to explain how can you use each of those listed materials. Students, you don't have to stress yourself in any point. If you find that they are asking you questions on things that you did not read in your guide, all the questions that you are going to meet is about teaching method. It's about how you teach language. Just think inside of the class. Think inside of your class and see how you do it. Just describe the way you do it in your class. Don't stress yourself and be now like in the class trying now to, sitting now trying to reflect back in your guide. The guide is just there to guide you, but everything you do it, taking it out from your teaching experience. Authentic materials. These are the really objects which we bring to class to enhance teaching. The authentic materials are the really objects, really materials that we bring to class so that we can help assist learners to understand our explanations. For example, video, audio, street sign, maps, etc. These are the type of materials that we call that they are authentic materials because they are really materials. And if you look at the sign, the example here of the sign, street signs, if maybe you are teaching about transport or traffic signs, and you bring an example of a picture of a robot, a picture of some road signs, those are the authentic materials. A map is also an authentic material and so forth. Okay, One thing that I have noticed is that learning English is challenge to learners who speak different mother tongue. And teachers have made an amicable effort to assist these learners. How can we assist now the learners if we can now put up our points? You have learners in your class, and these learners speak different mother tongues. And it's different researchers has now proved that different mother tongues, sometimes they have effect on the learning of English. How can we do away with this one, with these findings? How can we assist our learners in our classes who speak different mother tongue and we are teaching them English? How can we assist them to learn English with ease? Some points that I have indicated for you are like communicate with parents so that learners can also get someone to assist them at home. You can arrange with the parents so that this learner cannot just speak or being able to be assisted in English at school, but at home also there must be someone who can speak English with this child, not just mother tongue all the time. As we know, the more we expose learners to language, the more they learn. Can you remember the social environment that we talked about earlier? Okay. Get assistance from other learners. We can also use other learners in our classes. Let me say maybe a child is speaking or a learner is speaking a language that you cannot also speak as an English teacher. But you want to make things clear for her. You want to explain things for her in her mother tongue. But because of that limitation that you cannot speak that language, it's impossible. You can use other learners in the class that speak the same language with that particular child, and then they explain things to her. So meaning learners can also be a good teaching aid in this case that you can use to explain things to others. Some language experts have said that debate is one of the key tools to develop speaking and thinking skills in learners. Debate has 7 features. A debate, if you know the debate, what a debate is, it's now recognized to be the best tool for learners speaking, to stimulate speaking in learners and thinking skill as well. And they say this one has 7 features. There are 7 features of debate, like content, case, rebuttal, proposition team, opposition team, adjunctor, and arguments. These are the features of debate. I did not explain them, but this one, it will be your task. It will be your task that make sure that you know these features of a debate and be able to explain them as well. The guide has all this one. Consult it and read each and every feature of a debate. Okay, we now approach the last part of our presentation, where it's our homework. This homework is just a type of an activity that I want you to practice, but doesn't necessarily say that this one is something that you need to send in so that I can mark it. Just try to read this question and understand it also, in case you meet it somewhere or you read it and you understand it. The question said, find the meaning of each meaning of each feature of a debate. This one is on the last part that we talked about, the debate features. They are there listed for you. Now find the meaning of them. Find the meaning of each of that feature of the debate and understand them. Make just a short piece of note that you can also be part of your summary or notes for the subject. Rather than that, this is the end of our presentation, English Module 2. I thank you so much. We'll continue with English Module 2. We finished Module 1, now we proceed with English Module 2.